This is Janine Wilson with Pool Zones. I am a certified pool building professional, certified in 2020 by the Association of Pool and Spa Professionals. I also have certifications from Watershape University in the introduction on construction and the introductory course on fluid dynamics. I also am a negative edge pool specialist, and negative edges, that is the subject for discussion today. So again, my certifications are from the Association of Pool and Spa Professionals. The Institute codifies the pool standards along with international codes. Then also Watershape University, I have certifications from that institute. And if you are a pool builder, I would suggest that you go onto their website and take a look at some of their courses, which you can also take online, or you can participate in some of their live events. But my subject today is the specialized course on negative edge pool construction from and with Lou Akins. Now, Lou Akins is probably in his 70s now, and he was one of the prolific negative edge pool builders when the concept sort of was first introduced here in the United States. So let me go into talking about my experience, and then also coming back with some of the experience that Lou Akins has had. Now, before I start, I want to talk about my experience when I began my career back in 2000, and I built a negative edge pool in 2005. And I made pretty much every mistake you could possibly think of with a negative edge. So I didn't have anyone to turn to. I didn't know where to go. I really didn't have any idea on how to build a negative edge. And I basically did the best I could with the subcontractor's guidance. So you could just imagine the outcome. And anyway, so it turned out we had two negative edges, not just one. Actually, one worked quite well, but the basin on the second was just not deep enough. So it did create problems. So I want to talk about just some of the general things that go wrong in building a negative edge pool, and what you should do to plan and prepare properly. So at the outset, I will bring in a caveat, and that is you should definitely have engineering. It's going to take a lot more than what I'm going to talk about in this video, and that you really need to plan ahead. This is not something that you just send the guys out to dig and you work it out as you go. That's really not going to be conducive to an excellent result. It might land you into a lot of hot water. So I'm going to show you a few examples here where this builder is in a lot of problems with a 2-year-old pool. This is a pool that I was called out to quote. I was asked to quote on replacing the stone that was falling off. So let's delve into this project and talk about some of the problems here. So again, I'm not going to cover everything. There are a lot of details, but what I'm going to do is just give you a brief look into the right way and the wrong way to build a negative edge pool. This is definitely the wrong way. So when I arrived and saw these travertine, this is split face travertine, which has been falling off the wall of a 2-year-old pool. Yes, you heard that right, 2-year-old pool. That this pool builder has a very serious problem, especially if the apartment complex decides to sue him for builder negligence. That's what it comes down to. And there are multiple things wrong here. Now, if you're not an expert in building a negative edge pool, then you probably won't see one of the major problems of this basin. But you will later when we come back, and I'll do a layering effect where we'll say, here are the problems, here is the right way to do it, and then let's come back to this project. And so when I was asked to quote this, I didn't. I mean, the first thing is, if you're called out on a renovation, you really need to identify the cause of the problem and then back yourself out if they don't want to fix it properly. And then, of course, you have to have that clause, which is the unforeseen events that can occur. But you really do need to know what you're looking at when you're assessing a problem to make a correction. So travertine, split face travertine falling off the wall or walls. The other obvious problem here is leaking. And we can see that by the efflorescence that is coming up in the stamped concrete. But that's not my subject for today. This is one of my subjects for today. This is the automatic water leveler. The very first thing is this is in the wrong place. Look at this float mechanism, which it has that arm goes up and down maybe so many degrees. You know how it goes. You can bend them down. You can lift them up a little bit to manipulate the water level in the pool. But when it comes to the basin, this is a huge mistake. I mean, it's an enormous mistake, and I'll come back to that. So one of the main problems here with the stone is that the stone was actually adhered to the wall using a mesh-backed travertine. And you may say, well, we never use mesh-backed travertine, so we will never have this problem. Yeah, I don't think so. Let me mention this to you. If you've ever used mesh-backed glass tile, you have used mesh-backed materials. So let's take a look at this video, and it's going to swing around wildly. So just be prepared for a bit of disorientation. We see the water sort of flowing over intermittently. And here we go. This is a really serious problem. Now look how low the water is and look where the float mechanism is. So if you want to lower the water, you have to lower the float, but that's not going to help here. This water level device is in the wrong location. Wrong, 100% wrong. Now it looks as though they've come in here and patched something up. This looks as if it's had some work done on it. So let's go back to the problem. Oh, well, I'm pointing this out. This running at that extent means that it probably runs 24/7. Let me talk about that in a moment, but let's identify the other problem. The problem I was called out to identify. Okay, here we go. This is the mesh-backed stone. There are two negative edges here, one the pool and then the reverse negative edge up the top. This also is not the detail I would do on a negative edge. This is too thin, the stone. You can't grind it later if something goes wrong. And the angle is really poor as well. I mean, it's supposed to run down the face, which is only asking for more problems unless the material was the right material in the first place. There we go. It's another huge problem there, but let's come back to the cause. Here we go. So this is the cause, and what happens is the mesh is acting as a barrier. The stone gets wet, the glue gets wet behind it. This is not a grouted stone, should never have been installed under such conditions, and it's the wrong material. So obviously it did what the material would do under the circumstances. So let's go back to the automatic water leveling device. Looks as if they used a white thin set there. I don't even know if he waterproofed that wall, by the way. I'm not going to get into that detail, but let's come back to the autofill. So here we go. This is a really serious problem. So let's talk about the autofill. So when I spoke to Lou Akins, and I met him a couple of years ago, he talked about a problem that he'd had with a negative edge pool. Homeowner contacted him. He is an industry expert. I believe he's semi-retired now. And at the time, she had a water bill that was completely outrageous. So before her negative edge pool was built, her water bill was moderate. She knew what it was. It was fairly consistent. And then all of a sudden, it went up from maybe $100 or less to $600 per month. So she blamed it on the pool builder. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know why this was happening. And so Lou Akins was called out. And the first thing he did was, when he looked at the pool project, he identified that that autofill was in the wrong location and up too high. So let me show you what I mean by that. But before I leave this area, look at the water level here. And also observe that there are absolutely no bathers in this pool. High water level in the basin, no bathers in the pool, and no way of dropping that water level down much further, because, big mistake, huge mistake, skimmer is in the basin, or two, and there are skimmers in the pool. But because this builder didn't know what he was doing, he just said, well, better to be safe than sorry. Let's put a couple of skimmers in the basin. Another thing here that's happening, you'll look in here, this is eroding. The reason it's eroding is there's definitely, as we know in the pool industry, these things leak. And this has definitely a leak. You can see by the way the concrete is eroding. Not the subject for discussion right now. I'm only focused on a few things, but just look at the height of that basin and ask yourself what's going to happen when about 50 bathers get into that pool and start swimming and splashing and jumping around. So now let's go to another pool. So if you look at this pool, this is one that I built on Lake Conroe, and it was a very, very difficult job. I'll come back to that in a moment. But look at the basin, and what you'll notice in the basin is that the water level is much, much lower than what we had just seen. This is the first row of 6, the second row of 6, and the water is in the third row of 6. So 6 inches, obviously. Look at another thing here too. The water sheets off. It doesn't roll down the tile, but we use tile. We had better adhesion. This is ceramic tile, 6x6, better adhesion onto the waterproof surface. Another very, very brief point about negative edge pools is that you need to have the basin pump on the same level as the basin. What they did here is they did put some landscaping around it. This pump was extremely quiet. In fact, we had 2 pumps there, but keep that in mind. With these elevations here, a pump at the higher level for the basin would have had a serious priming problem. So let's go into this project with more depth. Very difficult conditions, a extremely hard to get to place. We had to come in via barges on the dig and to remove the soil. And I can tell you that the soil was 50 to 52 cubic yards max to get it out of that location. So we raised the pool for obvious reasons. Now, if we look at this project here, now remember keep in mind, just regard the fact that the pool is sitting up out of the ground. It's just the interior construction details would be the same regardless. So if you recall that the other basin had its autofill up the top, didn't it? That container was up the top. Well, not here. And you might wonder how this is possible. This is the actual autofill line, whereas the other autofill line was up much higher. So the concept here is that float mechanism can be adjusted up or down from this. And this is around 12 to 14 inches above the floor, finished floor level. This is another thing here. This is an overflow line. And I'll come back to that with a vacuum break here. So you don't have this ugly pipe sticking out of the top, but not the subject right now. So when we did this project, you'll see here again now, this is the autofill level right down here below the bench height. And this is the overflow line. But that float can be adjusted down here and not way up here. Big difference between the two. So, and I do not have a skimmer whatsoever in the basin. The skimmers are actually where they should be in the pool. So, okay, so this is what we have. Gunite, this was another shoot. We actually did this on 2 separate occasions. We waterproofed using a cementatious waterproof, and then the guys did another waterproof coat. But look at the tiles, 4 rows. We didn't just do the regular 2. Why 4 rows? Well, the reason is, look, I have my NPT book here. Oh no, that's the box of the material. So why 4 rows? Because the basin water fluctuates tremendously. Look at this. So we're very close to the floor here, maybe 12, 18, looks like about 18 inches or so to the floor level. So let's look on the outside, see if we can glean anything else. Again, basin is a pretty good size, decent depth. It allows for fluctuations, no bathers, but we definitely will not see 50 people in that pool, typically not. And the autofill line comes down here, goes back up to the upper level. And we actually put the mechanism, the float, inside the basin, which most builders would say that's not a really good idea. Well, choose wherever you want to put it. That's where we put it. And then determine the right elevation for the basin. So let's go into another project. So this builder, again, didn't know what he was doing. So he had a few guesses, and that's understandable. He has around 14 inches here. So this is a mistake because, again, the fluctuations in the basin will be tremendous. And he's setting his autofill. I think he's setting that autofill up too high. I don't know exactly there, but he's got a few issues that will occur. He's going to have wicking here, which is going to wick itself right around to the side and create an issue over here. It also looks as if this concrete is a perfect area for water to settle. So not a very good layout there. He's used glass tile, which I would just about bet on that he has mesh behind the glass. And one other thing here is waterproofing is an issue. This is the gunite. You can see he has not prepared the gunite. Look at these holes here. These are just going to be great for water to go through. I know we get plaster on there, but plaster is not impervious material. And the other thing that we see here, which is a mistake, this is the overflow line. So just imagine here, water coming out of here, and then it's going to run down this area and flow down the hill. Not the right way to build a negative edge basin. But at least he does not have the skimmers in there. And again, his depth is with the tile is completely incorrect with the tile. It's a long edge, and this basin is not big enough for that long edge of the pool, 15 to 16 feet long. So let's go back to our original. So a couple of things here. Is the basin for this project large enough? Is the autofill set at the right elevation? No, no. Is the material the correct material? No. Is the sheeting correct? No. I would have probably changed the angle of this wall. Will the water wick to the side? It was wicking off to the side. They came in and put in a little bit of, look at this ugly looking thing here, to stop it from wicking over to the side. Did they waterproof the exterior and interior of this wall, which is absolutely critical? I would say not, given what I've seen here. Was the autofill installed at the right elevation? No. What about the overflow line? I doubt it. I don't know where the overflow line is. I never saw one. But if it's overflowing, it's got to be coming out here, can't go out the pool, and then it's got to go out some way, maybe over the top, maybe the overflow line is somewhere here going down toward the lake. The water line tile, is deep enough in the basin? No way, Jose. And the skimmers, are they in the pool? Well, they are, but there are also some in the basin. And has the builder calculated his hydraulics properly? Well, I think we can come to that conclusion fairly quickly. So now that you've seen the other basin, now that you understand a few extra details about negative edge pools, there is more to it. So if you're planning to build a negative edge pool, you might want to contact me for more information, more educational tools that you could look at. And also keep in mind, very important, it is a liability for any builder to build a pool, and it's more so a liability with a negative edge pool. So let me cover some of the just general concepts that you should know about when building a negative edge pool. So when I purchased the course from Lou Akins, this is material I was given. This is that frightening hydraulic chart and table that most builders will not review. And so he sent me an audio DVD and a bunch of photos, and then also some details. These are really low resolution photos. Now, I contacted Lou this year in 2021 and said, are you still selling that course? And he said, no, he's not. And I asked him if I could sell it. And he said I could do whatever I wanted, but he was not offering this course any longer. Extremely informational, and it really helped me quite a great deal in building a negative edge pool. Also, I met with him and he discussed that problem I talked about with the builder, where he identified the problem and resolved the issue with the autofill. A little bit of demolition work, but it was done. So let's go into some of the very important details here, and we'll see different plan views and cross views. I'm not going to get into this very much, but this is a really extremely important issue. It's the line of sight and the basin and what's behind that negative edge pool. So we have some different angles and different details. This shows a cross section, but not the quite one that I want. Shows the overflow, not quite what I want right now. I'm just going to cover some of the other details here. If I can find my little graph, let me see. There's quite a few, isn't there? You'll notice that there's quite a bit in it, but it's okay. It's just a matter of getting acclimatized to the details. So let's look at the main details. Here is a cross section of the basin. Minimum operating is 12 inches. You have to allow for evaporation, bather surge, WIT, water in transit, and then freeboarding. So your freeboarding is that area between once these calculations are done down here, it's that water fluctuation level until it gets to the top of the basin or the overflow or something. See, our overflow never kicked into effect until that water rose over sort of almost to the top of the coping. But here's the situation. So we are supposed to have, that autofill set low. You can see here, there's the autofill, there's the level here, and it's set low. So it's sunken down, isn't it? You can use different autofills. I just chose the one I wanted. There's evaporation. Now keep in mind, when the pool evaporates 1 or 2 inches, keep in mind, that could mean 6 to 7, 8, 9, 10 inches in a basin, because your basin is going to refill the pool. Water's going to come out of here and go back into the pool when that evaporation hits. So if it loses half an inch or an inch, depending on the gallons in the pool, it could drop down many inches in the basin. So you have to be prepared for that. Bather surge, I think it's 20 or 40 gallons per person that jumps in and starts splashing around. And then, of course, 10 or 20 of those, or in that commercial pool, there might be up to 100. Then there's water in transit. So this is off. Guess what? The water's in the basin, sitting around, waiting around, isn't it? So when the water's on, running through the pipes, it gets sucked out of the basin. So that level drops down. So these are just some of the concepts. And of course, there's a way to calculate for that and then add yourself in a sort of a protection layer, a little bit extra. So now let's go back to that pool and see if you've learned anything by this video. So if you did not know about those concepts before, but you learned that in this video, then if you'd first seen this pool, you wouldn't have known the problems with undersizing this basin and what was going on at this stage. But now that you've seen some of the ideas behind the sizing the basin up properly, then let's go back to the basin and take a look at that water depth. So not deep enough, not enough tile going down, doesn't have any room for fluctuations. We have no bathers in there. Once they start jumping in, that water goes over the edge, it goes out the overflow. Tremendous amount of water is being lost. The autofill is running 24/7. The skimmers are in the wrong place. The autofill's in the wrong place. They've used the wrong material. And this pool now, that pool builder, if the apartment complex chooses, they will sue him to fix. I mean, this is in the tens of thousands of dollars to fix this project. So whatever profit margin he thought he made, he will not make any money out of this project, and it will cost him a lot. Whereas if you did a briefing on this, grasped some of the ideas, and then decided to educate yourself on how to build negative edge pools, you could actually make this a very successful project if you were to build this type of pool in the future. Remember, I haven't covered everything. I've given you a glimpse into it, and I can also give you more information as to where to look and what to study to get to know the negative edge concepts. My course with Lou Aiken several years ago was around $300, and then I met with him as well. So it was over $1,500 by the time I'd finished, but I gained a great education. And when I built my negative edge pool that I showed you in Lake Conroe, it was very successful.